The Tuesday, November 18th meeting of the Grass Valley Planning Commission. Planning Commission welcomes you to attend the meetings electronically or in person at the City Hall Council Chambers located at 125 East Main Street, Grass Valley, California, 95945. Regular meetings are scheduled at 6 p.m. on the third Tuesday of each month. Your interest is encouraged and appreciated. The meeting is being broadcast live on Comcast Channel 17 and 18 by Nevada County Media, on the internet at cityofgrassvalley.com, or on the City of Grass Valley YouTube channel, youtube.com/@cityofgrassvalley.com. Members of the public are encouraged to submit public comments via voicemail at 530-274-4390 and email to public@cityofgrassvalley.com. Comments will be reviewed and distributed before the meeting if received prior to 5 p.m. Comments received after that will be addressed during the item or at the end of the meeting. Commission will have the option to modify their action on items based on comments received. Action may be taken on any agenda items. Agenda materials, staff reports, and background information related to the regular agenda items are available on the city's website, cityofgrassvalley.com. Materials related to an item on this agenda submitted to the commission after distribution of the agenda packet will be made available on the city's website, subject to city staff's ability to post a document before the meeting. Please note, individuals who disrupt, disturb, impede, or render infeasible the orderly conduct of a meeting will receive one warning that if they do not cease such behavior, they may be removed from the meeting. The chair has the authority to order individuals removed if they do not cease their disruptive behavior following this warning. No warning is required before an individual is removed if that individual engages in a use of force or makes a true threat of force. Council chambers are wheelchair accessible and listening devices are available. Other special accommodations may be requested to the city clerk 72 hours in advance of the meeting by calling 530-274-4390. We are happy to accommodate. Call the meeting to order. Do you be going to lead in the pledge? Happy to. We stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Gross is absent. Commissioner Spites? Here. Commissioner Witch is absent. Vice Chairman McDonald?
Present.
Chairman Bruletti?
Here.
3 members are present.
We have a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay. Abstentions? Motion carries.
Action minutes approval and so that requires a separate vote? Sorry. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the action minutes?
Motion to approve the action minutes. McDonald.
I second that.
Have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Spites?
Yes.
Vice Chairman McDonald?
Yes.
Chairman Bruletti?
Yes.
3 yeses. Motion carries.
Are there any public comments not related to a regular agenda item that the public would like to make? None seen in the room. Are there any virtual comments or online comments not related to an agenda item?
There is none at this time, but I will let you know if any come in.
Thank you. Can we proceed to the public hearing items, please?
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, Commission. This project has been used. This project site is This project is on 928 Taylorville Road. An application by Charlie Faber, a development review to consider 43,000 square foot expansion of an existing contractor's equipment yard. Just to emphasize, this project is just for the development review, not the conditional. There's no use permit on this. The use as it is currently being used is an allowed use on the site. So it's really just the development and the expansion, the grading that is required for this expansion that is at issue tonight. The project has been used as a contractor's equipment yard since about 1951, expanded in about 1987 under the county's jurisdiction. The applicant filed a grading permit with the city in December of 2024, which time planning staff determined that there's need for a development review application due to the size and scope of the grading. The project involves a development review application for a proposed 43,000 square feet of ground disturbance, and that includes 13,406 cubic yards of imported fill for the purposes of expanding the equipment yard, but according to the applicant, the actual operation is not expanding. The additional areas to store equipment and stockpile material more efficiently, and then to allow more maneuverability of equipment. The use itself, as I stated, is considered a permitted use in the M1 zoning designation. The development review application is required due to the grading in excess of 50 cubic yards pursuant to the municipal code. Access and parking will be primarily ingress and egress from an existing driveway encroachment off of Taylorville Road. There is a second concrete driveway being added approximately 170 feet south of the existing driveway, which will serve the expanded equipment yard. The preliminary landscaping plan does meet minimum requirements of the development code. There is an updated landscaping plan that the applicant has brought to the meeting and is on the dais there. Really just outlining a different tree species, and that was just something that was described at or discussed at the DRC meeting. There's concern about the tree type and how the roots might impact grading and the retaining wall. According to the site plan, there's a total of 36 trees ranging in size from 8 to 24 inches DBH that will be removed, and those consist primarily of pines and firs. To accommodate the proposed fill, the applicant is proposing a stacked ready rock block wall that will range in height between 5 and 7 feet and spans 464 feet on the southern edge of the property. The use is consistent with the general plan designation and the zoning of light industrial. At the Development Review Committee meeting on November 12th, there was discussion that revolved primarily around the visual screening of the expanded area. It was noted that due to the topography of the site, there is limited ability to screen to the west where the Berryman Loop residential neighborhood is. DRC did recommend additional conditions of approval, which had been included in the revised conditions of approval that are before you tonight. Including increasing the height of the required screening wall from 6 feet to 8 feet along the western property line or western edge of the expansion area, increasing the height of the chain link fencing along Taylorville Road and adding the privacy slats, and adding a condition to reiterate the standard noise requirements of the development code. Finally, engineering did also request that the added parking area be relocated to a paved area of the site. The committee did ask the applicant to consider a landscape screen within the open space finger that's sort of between the site they're not developing and sort of the western side of their development area. Then, with the idea that that might provide a bit more of an effective screen than a fence, just due to the topography of the site. The applicant did provide an updated fencing plan, and I have it on I think it's the second to last exhibit. Although they're proposing a 5-foot wire fence on that western side, that's really an issue, which I'm not sure provides much of a screen and is in conflict with the condition that DRC had added to the project. But I think the applicant may have some insight as to why that's being provided. But it will require that we modify that condition if that fencing plan is acceptable to the commission. And other than that, with the recommended project requirement, the conditions of approval that DRC had requested, they recommended approval of the project overall. Oh, and I'm sorry, one more thing. There is an initial study mitigated negative declaration that was tiered off the previously certified EIR of the Southern Sphere annexation area. it's gone out for public review, and there was one comment from DTSC to update the conditions or the mitigation measures. And those primarily had to do with there's a hazardous material site documented to sort of south. And so they recommended testing any fill that goes into this area. And then also they had asked that they test and that, sorry. I guess that was primarily what the mitigation was asking. And I do have another exhibit showing the added mitigation measures.
Any questions for city staff at this point?
Not this time.
Is the applicant here to,
The applicant is here and can answer any questions as well.
would the applicant like to make a statement or a presentation?
Statement would be great.
Welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners. Martin Wood, Principal SCO Planning and Engineering. Appreciate being here tonight, and thank you, staff, for the presentation. Just a few things I wanted to make note of that I think are important to this discussion. There's a lot of history on this particular site. If you even go back a few years back when the city got a grant and took in the Southern Sphere properties that were along LeBar and the Berryman properties and those type of things, and annexed those properties in. This was contemplated at that time. So we actually transferred some of the land to an N1 zone, being consistent with the existing use. As staff had said, it's been in operation since like the 50s. So just want to say there's a lot of thought and history that went in, and not only the environmental review, that the EIR that the city did and all that history, this was kind of planned to do. And then we did a lot adjustment a year and a half, 2 years ago, something like that. And Mr. Faber purchased that land from the Berryman Ranch developers, again, all consistent with what was anticipated a few years ago. And the city took on that process of annexation. Couple other things, just highlights. It isn't an expansion of business, if you will. It's really to give some more breathing room in his yard, where he has a lot of equipment. A lot of you probably know a lot of history from C&D. They do a tremendous amount of work, a lot of emergency work for the city of Grass Valley. There's probably a red phone around here somewhere that C&D gets called when something breaks. So it's a very important business, I think, to the city. They employ over 50 people. And again, that goes, the reason I bring that up is that goes hand in hand with what the goals were when the Southern Sphere annexation of bringing the property into the city is. It wanted to be an employment generation opportunity, and it also wanted a housing opportunity. And both of those, with the rezones and those things that happened in that whole area, were achieved. So this is just one more step in that. With that, I think we had a successful DRC hearing. Commissioner McDonald was there, and we did have some discussions about different things. Couple things I want to touch on. One, some of the neighbors brought up a concern that we hadn't heard before was, hey, there's some lights that are on the yard there and on the building that have some excessive glare, and I'm using their words, I'm kind of paraphrasing. And Mr. Faber basically looked at that and took that to heart, and we are agreeing to basically change out 3 lights to shielded night sky compliant downlight. And that should reduce some glare kind of going to those upper areas of where the Berryman 30 lots were created. On the fencing, there's some conditions of approval that were put in here. A couple, I think, aren't consistent with what we discussed at DRC, and I want to talk about that. One, there was talk about screening and those type of things, and that was the main discussion. But I never heard in that discussion a wall. A masonry wall is a significant expense. It's not warranted, and I want to explain that of why. If you just look at line of sight, those lots from those adjacent neighbors are 30 feet above the proposed pad elevation of C&D. So if we build a wall on our westerly boundary, it does absolutely nothing because you're looking right over it. So what we did with our proposed fencing plan, I don't know if staff can bring that up, but I can kind of show what we were proposing and
in keeping with what DRC's concerns and those type of things were, was, again, I think the neighbors that came out and had some comments weren't really talking about Taylorville. They're more concerned about their considerations to the west. There was discussion about Taylorville. In looking at it more closely with Mr. Faber, the owner, there's an existing fence along, 2/3 of the property right now that is 6 foot in height. And it's already slightly elevated above Taylorville Road. It needs a few repairs, and we do think it's warranted or makes sense to add the privacy slats in there. So we want to add privacy slats along the existing fence on Taylorville. And then in keeping, we've got the same consideration on where we're adding fill to get it back to the same pad elevation, is that's going to be elevated predominantly above Taylorville Road. So that extra 2 feet of the fence really isn't important in our view. And we want to match the 6 foot height of the existing fence that's there and continue that along Taylorville to our new driveway entrance, then 30 feet back, have a gate crossing, and then basically run our fence, kind of return it, and that's where the red is, and that would be with the privacy slats. And then the green would continue, and that's at the top of slope. And that runs along the edge. That's kind of a safety consideration, but everything to the south is zoned open space, and there's a significant called wet meadow that's identified in the bio. We don't really need screening on that side. There's a lot of distance there from anywhere where residences might be built in the future as part of the Berryman Ranch project. So we were just going to do a 6 foot chain link basically to the end of the pad. And then the remainder of the property, we wanted to do 5 foot no climb wire fence. And the reason we picked that is predominantly that we've had a lot of problems out there in the past with the homeless. Mr. Faber, probably to the tune of $50,000 to $100,000 in theft that occurred. It's gotten better since the Berryman 30 lots got constructed, but he wants to basically get his perimeter fenced, if you will. And the reason we didn't put slats and we didn't go higher is because in terms of visibility, again, the residents to the west are 30 feet above the pad. So whether we go 6 feet, 8 feet, wall, it does nothing for visibility. So 5 foot no climb fence made the most sense. That gives him the security and the needs of securing his site, if you will. And that was what we were proposing and kind of what we heard from DRC. If you look at the landscape plan, kind of going back to the office after DRC and looking at that, we switched out to, there was comments about invasive type root system not good next to wall. So we changed that out to a California buckeye. But if you look at the west area, we have provided kind of a buffer there from the neighbors, and we have 8 trees that are planted in there. Now, again, they're a good distance vertically up. They've got great views. They're perched up there high. So we can't plant trees that are that tall, but if we do plant them over time, that will eventually become additional screening at that west end. So that was the idea behind that. And let's see, so lighting, we want to go with a 6 foot fence, kind of talked about why we're proposing that. Okay, condition number 9, in reading through this, it said storage materials within the enclosed area shall not be higher than the approved perimeter fence or wall. We don't think that makes any sense. That for any contractor's yard, anywhere in the county, city, nobody can comply with that. I was just talking with Charlie before the hearing. He's got existing trucks with racks that are up at 12 foot height. So I think the condition needs to be reworded. We're not looking to go any really higher than that, but again, since our site it's all about line of sight, right? It's not your fence height. It's all about line of sight. And if we're already elevated from Taylorville Road and we don't have any neighbors on that view shed, we think that's the lesser concern, and we think the 6 foot with the privacy lats will add a good finish to the frontage, but obviously allow him to run his business effectively. Additionally, yeah, and again, just on the noise thing, I don't really have an issue with condition 12, the way it's worded. There was one comment, I think, at DRC about, hey, you know, sometimes we've heard early in the morning a truck start up and those type of noise considerations. I'm sure, you know, it happens from time to time, but again, I just want to bring up the fact that we do have a business that, you know, if a sewer lift station comes down, they might be calling C&D. If there's a plowing operation, they might be calling C&D. There's different times where hours of operation vary, but the norm is normal business hours, so I don't really have a comment or a concern about that. So with that, we're here tonight to hopefully answer any questions you have, and really appreciate you reviewing the project, and we're here. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant before he sits down?
Not at this time.
Not at this time for me.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Before we open it up to public comments, that condition 9, if that's under discussion still and not agreed to, would we?
Yeah, I was looking, I'm pretty sure I pulled it right directly from the code, but I do believe there's language in the screening section that allows you to waive, screening, screening methods that are not practical or, I'll have to, I'm looking for it in the code actually right now, so I can let you know when I find it.
Should we go to public comment then? Yeah, is that fine?
That's fine with me.
Are there any public comments on the item? Oh, sorry. Here we go.
Hello, my name is Tom Last. I'm the Executive Director with the Nevada County Contractors Association. We're here located in Grass Valley. So I worked 20 years for the city of Grass Valley in the Community Development Department, both the planning and as Planning Director and Community Development Director. So I think it's important to provide some background information on this project because it was part of, as Martin mentioned, the comprehensive 450-acre planning effort that took place over an 8-year period. It was called the Southern Sphere of Influence Planning and Annexation Project. So the city started this process in 2011, and it was a collaboration between Nevada County, LAFCO, the Local Agency Formation Commission, was involved, Caltrans was involved, we had NID was involved, all the property owners within that area were involved, also all the neighbors at the time were involved with this process. It included dozens of meetings, public meetings, and it was very comprehensive and very incredibly transparent process. It was, the city let everybody know what the purpose of this was. And that primary goal was to preserve and protect existing industrial businesses in the southern part of town, and to allow them to expand, create new opportunities for new industrial businesses also. And the main reason why, around that time, both the city and the county, it was acknowledged that there was very little industrial zone vacant land left in the city and also in the county. And what was happening, we were starting to lose businesses that were going to either Auburn, sometimes they were going to even the state of Nevada. They were leaving the community because they didn't have an area to expand here. So the city took a proactive approach, working with the county and all these other entities, to try to create some land zoned for industrial purposes, to allow these bigger businesses who are critical for our community to expand and also create new opportunities for businesses that were successful, homegrown businesses that wanted and needed space. We were trying to create that. That was the whole emphasis of this project. So one of those objectives was for the heavy industrial, knowing that, you know, these are loud business, sometimes could be loud businesses, but they're essential for the community. And one of the comments and phrases that came up a lot was, with these businesses, we want to prevent the airport syndrome, right? Where you have an airport that's established, and then you have residential start moving into the area, and all of a sudden that business or the airport gets hammered all the time, and sometimes they have to move or they have to take extreme measures. So that was a large part of the planning effort that went on, and the emphasis of trying to protect those existing businesses and provide opportunities. So that was important to keep in mind. This process also, a secondary effect also was to designate lands for retail and high density housing. and also provide planning opportunities for job growth. It also addressed infrastructure, the water, the sewer. It was a very comprehensive process for this area. It included, as Amy indicated, it included a certification of an EIR and then a subsequent EIR to address all the environmental issues. And again, the purpose was to allow the city to rely on these documents to make the process easier and to encourage industrial development, to encourage these businesses to expand. I mean, it was an intentional, very intentional effort. In some ways, I don't want to hit the city too hard, but I'm a little bit disappointed that this project is even before the Planning Commission. If you look at the development code, I believe that the staff, based on all the history, and, a project of grading doesn't have to go to the Planning Commission unless three things occur. One, it impacts a scenic resource. Two, there's a significant impact on vegetation or topography. Those are the three factors that determine whether this goes to the Planning Commission or not. I believe those were all addressed as part of that planning process. And we did. We addressed the scenic resources. We knew this specific business was planned and contemplated. So the C&D expansion was specifically known and considered as part of that 8-year planning effort. And the zoning boundaries were drawn to avoid those, any scenic impacts or anything else. It was an intentional effort to do that. So I just hope you consider those factors in your decision-making process. Again, I know that there now, we're in this situation now. We have the first project that's wanting to expand down here, and there's new residential homes here. And I think it's really important to understand that background when when you're making that decision, that there was a very deliberate, intensive, collaborative, and incredibly transparent process that went through to create these opportunities to make it easier for businesses to expand. So I just wanted to pass it on to you. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening, Ralph Soberstein. I'm a resident of Grass Valley, and I'm speaking as a private party. I want to applaud the applicant for choosing to put trees in to try to improve the visibility screening. The choice of California buckeye is actually a large shrub, and it's deciduous. So I would urge, it's a native plant, so I think that's great, but I would urge them to look at other species which might grow more quickly and grow higher and do a better job of screening. And in particular, since the deciduous bushes drop all the leaves in the winter, they won't be a very good screening in the winter. So that's all I have to say. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Katie Steffen. I live on 162 Berryman Loop. Can we look at where our homes are, that original one, so I could point out? Is that possible? I also want to ask if you received my email. I sent an email.
Yes. Is that in the supplemental pack? Yes, we have. Thank you.
Obviously, as residents, we're very against this. We purchased our homes, not being told this was going to happen. Charlie was involved in building Berryman Loop, and this wasn't carried to us when we purchased our homes. I'm at 162, so that line goes right to the back of our yard. We purchased our home. I believe we are the most expensive lot in Berryman Loop because of our view. So our view, which extends, is quite beautiful, and we don't see the freeway. We look out and it looks past the freeway into Empire Mine. It's quite a lovely view. If this project happens, it will take away our view. Thank you, Charlie, for coming to my house and seeing that. You also acknowledged that it would impact our view. We have put a lot into loving our home and going into this neighborhood. Many of us have moved from beautiful homes in Nevada County into this neighborhood to be fire-wise. So our slope that we have on 162, 158, 166, 170, they are steep slopes. We are not allowed to have foliage on those slopes to comply with being fire-wise. The small area of a half an acre that Charlie's talking about not developing right next to us has very few trees in comparison to what's looked at for being developed. They're correct in saying that there is no way any trees that they put in will ever, in my lifetime, I would benefit from that. Our neighborhood would benefit from that. The existing lot that Charlie has right now with his business is so bright at night. We try in our backyards to cover it up, and it's virtually impossible. I understand theft, but if this project goes out, it will devalue our neighborhood. It will greatly impact us, and I'd really like you to take that into consideration. Please read my email. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thanks for letting us speak. My name is Lee Nguyen. I'm a local family physician. I live as well on that west wall of that project that's planned. For selfish reasons, as Katie has already elaborated on, light, noise pollution, it would be an issue, property values, so those are selfish reasons. As a family physician, and I think some of you have already felt this, we don't have enough doctors in town. We don't have enough dentists in town. And those who are looking in this community to try to move in, establish themselves, they're gonna look for a nice home, okay? First thing, most people are thinking, this is a fire pit. Most communities, a lot of trees. So like us, they're gonna be looking for fire-safe places. That's why I moved to this neighborhood. Berryman Ranch is planning to expand southeast of that area. So I'm thinking if I was a physician moving into the area and I'm looking at Hanson Brothers, the lot with the dirt, would I want to move there? No. I realize this is not going to be half as big as that, but if it's going to be more industrial, it's going to be a lot less attractive. So besides the, healthcare shortage that we're dealing with, housing shortage, I believe, is an issue too, and that's why we're expanding out on Whispering Pines. So this will definitely be detracting from anyone wanting to move into this neighborhood, move into the new complex that they're being proposed. So I understand businesses need to expand to survive. But I can tell you from a healthcare provider, we're suffering. And if we're going to attract more people to the area because people are moving to the area from the Bay Area, this is going to be an eyesore. So, different perspective. Hope you take that into consideration.
Thank you for the comments.
Hi, I'm James Clark. I live at 156. Did you get my email? Okay, thank you. So what I wasn't able to do in my email was show an exhibit, okay? So the first one, I'll give it to you, is going to be his yard. Now this is taken in my backyard. I put my phone on the fence and we snap, okay? Now, this one right here, what I did is I took my phone and I moved it over a spot and took another picture. So I put two pictures together to show you I'm already inundated with the sound right here, okay? So you can see where the line is right there. So you can see the sheriff's car going by on Highway 49, right? The little white car back there, okay? And so now imagine him taking all these trees out for his lot. That's gonna be, not only is it gonna be the 43,000, it's gonna be this as well added onto that, wiping out our whole back neighborhood. And as far as the noise, I'm right back there, okay? I bought it in 23 cash, and I did all the work on it, invested a lot of money into that place, okay? Knowing that I had that little space right there, okay? I put a big Christmas tree up in front, another tree for my hummingbirds to try to block it from my patio, okay? My mother's 92 with Alzheimer's. My girlfriend's 75 and she lives on oxygen because of our motorcycle wreck, okay? I have PTS, whatever that is, extremely bad. I go to therapy every week, okay? That's my solitude. That's my background. That's the reason why I had cash in my hand and we all went over there and we said, this is the best setting for us. My mother worked for the feds for 33 years, San Francisco. She never had trees. She never had snow. She never had nothing like that. The day that we were supposed to move in, Berryman had to come over and blow snow out of my driveway. So when I was coming in from the Bay Area with my mom, I could get into my driveway. Okay? I put a lot of time and effort into that house. Down at that yard, they'll hook a chain up to a dumpster and on a forklift or a loader and drag that thing across the back asphalt. Okay? You got forklift drivers or rubber tire loader, whatever is down there with that beep, beep, beep noise, for safety. Okay? So now someone comes up and talks to him, so he leaves it in reverse and it beeps for 20 minutes. Throughout the whole neighborhood, that thing just beep, beep. It drives you crazy. Okay? That's all I want to say. I don't want to get too upset. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Comments?
My name is Denny Silberstein. I'm a resident of Grass Valley. I didn't even know this was on the agenda, but I would like to just address a comment that Mr. Last made. Just because something was done in the past doesn't mean it has to continue into the future. Things change. A neighborhood is there now, and it sounds like possibly the owner of 928 was involved in the development of that neighborhood. This might be an opportunity to learn to consider areas before permits are given for development, and to consider this type of expansion and change as we in Grass Valley change. I really hope you can find a resolution to this. It seems like the owner who wants to make the change is making some effort to accommodate the neighbors, but it sounds like there's some major issues that will definitely interfere with the neighbors' quality of life. I don't know, maybe not taking out 36 trees, maybe working around some of those trees to develop that area. I don't know, but it could be a good lesson for us all to consider. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Hello, Commissioners. My name is Lorraine Larson. I'm the Executive Director of Nevada County Habitat for Humanity. And I would like to just echo the essential nature of C&D and their business for us and what we do to provide affordable housing in this community. I've heard this evening that, the city has issues and they call C&D. We also call C&D when we have issues, and they're so responsive to us, and sometimes we have emergency, we have other things we need done to create these housing developments. And without a local business like C&D who steps in and supports us and really helps us make these affordable, we wouldn't be able to do what we do here in Nevada County. And, anything that makes their business more efficient. I mean, I heard talk about how high they can have materials and things like that. I would urge you not to consider limiting too much, because the more responsive they can be when we need something, the better we are going to be able to provide affordable housing in this community. And I just have to say, I've been doing this for 16 years, and C&D has without fail been there for us whenever we need anything, and over and above other businesses in the area. They are essential to Habitat and what we do here, and I think essential to a lot of other projects in this community. So anything you can do to help them be more efficient is going to make them more responsive to what we're doing. So thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Ben Aguilar, former mayor of Grass Valley, former chair of the Planning Commission. I'm here in support of the proposed yard expansion for C&D. It's a company that has been a reliable part and partner of our community and operates with a strong record of safety, compliance, and community support in the form of emergency storm cleanup, snow plowing. They help with the sinkhole. When I served, I can't count how many times we had to rely on large construction companies such as C&D and Hanson Brothers to help with the incidents that occur. Snowmageddon, they were instrumental with their heavy equipment, removing trees, removing snow. This expansion is not about increasing traffic or changing the character of the area. It's about improving efficiency, reducing congestion on the existing site, and allowing the business to continue serving the community in a safe and organized manner. Right now, the company's operations are constrained by limited space, which leads to equipment being stored closer together than ideal, vehicles moving more frequently within tight aisles, and materials being delivered multiple times in smaller shipments. The proposed expansion would address these kinds of issues. By approving this request, the commission will help the business achieve improved safety, reduce off-site impacts, better visual organization, and support for local jobs. The business has worked closely with staff, addressed feedback, and demonstrated a willingness to meet all considerations to ensure the expansion is well managed and consistent with the city's standards. For these reasons, I respectfully ask the commission to approve the yard expansion. It is a practical, low-impact improvement that enhances the safety, efficiency, and community benefit without altering the use or character of the area. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
My name is Pam Butler, and I'm a Berryman Ranch resident. And I'm not here to argue against the value C&D provides to our community, because I think it's very valuable. But I am concerned for the residents on Berryman Ranch and how close the line is to them. And the noise level, the tree, the mitigation of taking out the trees, the ability to look at a view. And I think most of our Berryman Ranch residents were not aware of the planned expansion, or that's been going on since 1980s for this particular site. And I think that says a lot to the town development people that sold us our homes. And I would like you to remember that when you do approve other community builds. So I think that if there's a way to mitigate some of the noise on the yard, whether maybe even drawing the line a little bit away from the residents would really help. Maybe going west a little bit more if that property is part of C&D, I don't know. So I think our main concerns is our view, our noise that we get, because I do hear it. I live at 103 and I do hear the sound of that machinery moving when they're backing up, and that noise that Mr. Clark was presenting earlier. I even hear it as well as where I am located. So all I'm doing is suggesting that the community leaders look at a more plausible or sustainable solution for both C&D and both for Berryman Ranch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Daniel Schwarzendruber. I live in Nevada City now, but I used to be the chair, and I was on the planning commission for 8 years. I think I talked to some of you at some point before. I lived in the city for probably 15 years, and you know, some of the sound and everything that you hear when you live in town is what you hear when you live in town, and you make that choice to live inside the city limits. never bothered me when I lived in town. You'd hear the sirens, you'd hear all kinds of things when you live in town. I moved out more to the county and I don't hear a thing, but that's where I chose to live. I think I just want to say a couple things. You know, I am sorry about some of these neighbors that weren't maybe made aware, but I also know that when people are trying to sell homes, they don't always like go all in about everything that's right next door. And so I do feel for some of that, but it is an M1 zoning. And when you think about the fact that in the Grass Valley, we have very limited M1 zoning. There's not a lot of room, there's not a lot of industry in this city. And if we get to the point, so to back up 1 second, when a gentleman buys an M1 property, they buy it under the pretext that they're going to be able to operate a business that fits within that zoning, and that is what is there. Not only has it been there for 50-something years, but that was why they took over and bought that property, is because they knew that this is what they were going to be able to do. And so if we start restricting M1 zoning like that, and limiting what is available for them to do and everything, you know, as Tom said, this probably should never have even made it to this level, which is kind of an unfortunate circumstance, but we're here now. So I would just encourage you to do that. I think specifically, just because I was on the planning commission, I kind of understand these things. Your conditions 7 and 8 should be modified, and 9 absolutely should be relooked at, because you know, if you look at any of these yards that are across the community, you have a lot of these tree guys got their forklifts and all their buckets and everything's up in the air. Like, it's literally impossible for some stuff that's stored in some of these places to be below an 8-foot or 6-foot fence. And I think Martin kind of really explained it very well for the applicant, that 6-foot fence, when you're at the street level, it's already way above the street. And I think a 6-foot fence is totally fine. I think what Mr. Faber is encouraging for that fence in the back, I think their fencing plan that they just proposed is actually really, it's better visually even, because if these neighbors can look down and see like an 8-foot wall of some kind, that's kind of nuts. If they can see more screening and they don't really see the 5-foot fence, the 5-foot fence will be there for security, I think. And, you know, everyone's kind of talked about the trees. Most of those trees are way further to the east side and middle of the property. Like that whole corner of that west side is kind of being left untouched. And if he can work with them on the lighting, I think that kind of is the best kind of mix and balance of what the comments I've heard today and what I think they're looking for as far as the business. And I do know they've been there for Snowmageddon, for the sinkhole that was up there. You know, anytime there's a water leak, sometimes NID's lines blow in the city, and the C&D or Hanson Brothers gets called, and if we need to help support those kinds of businesses, because there's only a couple, and if we don't have them here and we don't support them here, then other communities or other businesses from out of town will try and come here and do that work, and then that money doesn't stay here and be local. And I think that's one thing that we need to think about as well. So thank you for your time, and hope this all works out for everybody.
Thank you.
My name is Jane Bland, and I live at 158 Berryman Loop there. And it's noisy. And it can be even 4 o'clock in the morning at times. And then there's this thing that they lift up and drop every once in a while. And it's like, the first time I jumped because it just shook. And it's very noisy to me. And I did move there from the country. Well, being out further, I'm nervous for being out further, and for the convenience that I could walk to the stores and stuff, but I also wanted, because I was always around a bunch of trees, but that's why I moved there. was to be out looking at the trees and all that, and I don't know. It upsets me that that's gonna be going away for me. But it is noisy, it is. I don't care what time of day. I mean, not like in the middle of the night, but it's not your 8 o'clock, it's even earlier than that, or 6, sometimes 4. And actually, so the master bedroom is on that side, and I actually go into another room to sleep because of that. But I don't want to leave there, because I can at least go into another room, but it's noisy. And I don't want those trees to go. That's it.
Thank you, ma'am. Are there any other comments from attendees in the room? Okay, thank you, sir.
Council, my name's Tim Collins and I live at 170 Berryman Loop. And I'd just like to reinforce some of my neighbors' comments. Frequently, I would like to try to work at some alternatives to mixing residential neighborhood with industrial, because as so many people have said, the noise sometimes starts at 4 in the morning. Lights are on all night. Removal of trees would then provide more noise for us from the freeway. And I understand we've chosen where we live, but however, it seems classic to me that if this goes through, it's encouraging mixing residential with industrial. And I would request that that we look for alternatives, not necessarily refusing him to use his property the way he needs to, but if there could be some other, if there could be some alternatives. The owner probably has more ideas than I do about how to change this. But that's my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Are there any other attendees in the room that would care to make a comment? Are there any online comments?
Hi, this is Matthew Coulter commenting on the property adjacent to the Berryman Ranch expansion of C&D yard, and the 5-foot no-climb fence blocks all the wildlife access to be able to go through the property. And we've already lost a lot of the wildlife in that area due to impact of the building and impact from people living out there in the woods also, and illegal dumping and everything else that goes on Taylorville Road. But also, something that needs to be addressed is the pipe that runs from the current yard into Berryman Creek. I don't think that was ever authorized, and for this company to be dumping pollutants down that pipe into a creek is criminal. So someone really needs to deal with that. And I just don't feel like the planning commission should let this go forward until you deal with some of these other things that have been going on for a long time. Long time. Thank you.
And that is the end of the public comments.
Were you able to find anything about condition 9?
Yes, sorry. So yes, condition 9 was based on Development Code section 17.44.170 F2, which says that the maximum height of stored materials within the storage area shall not be higher than the fence, except where authorized by a use permit for the storage area. So generally, outdoor storage does require a use permit. I'm not actually sure. I'll double check and make sure it does with this zoning. But yeah, it says that you could exceed the height with a use permit.
And what are conditions 7 and 8 again? there was comment that they may need to be modified.
Let's see, 7. Oh, with the wall. Let's see, 7 was to install, 7 reads, install an 8-foot decorative wall of masonry or similar durable material along the western property line with incorporated plant material to provide screening that benefits the Berryman Loop neighborhood to the west in compliance with section 17.30.040F of the Development Code. Screen along the southern border is not necessary due to the span of open space. And in this case, so the masonry wall is, that's language from the Development Code as well. That's where there is some discretion, though, if it's not deemed necessary by the review authority, you can request some other screening method. And DRC had said that they didn't think that the screening on the southern side of the development was necessary. They had said it was necessary on the west side.
Did the applicant wish to address any of the comments? Yeah, correct. Please.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Let's address the low-hanging fruit, if you will. The California buckeye, that was to switch out the tree species because the other one's considered invasive next to retaining walls. But maybe the more appropriate approach, and we're totally fine with, is working with Dwayne Strasser on, something that's appropriate. I know you guys are looking at your landscape code and updates. So whatever can come to agreement with that, we're agreeable to any species or type of tree that could work.
Yeah, I think the comment about picking a non-deciduous and maybe a taller one makes sense. They are pretty short trees.
Yeah, so we're totally fine with that. So again, low-hanging fruit. To address Mr. Coulter and the drainage pipes, if you will, our plan addressed, there was a couple of pipes that have been there for a long time that come out of the existing wall and the existing site. And with the expansion of the pad, and I think Kathy reviewed this as well, and it's a requirement on other projects now. Our last drainage inlet where they all tie together is a sand oil separator prior to discharge. So there is a mitigation, if you will, that basically brings it up to a higher standard. In addition, that site, when it was owned by a previous company, Light Industrial, on there, put in $500,000 system, $750,000 system that also does sand oil filtering type thing. So this site is well equipped and we're meeting all the current codes and requirements. So I want to put that one to rest. And then one other thing, just again, I get it. I understand public comments and I get it. If I live there, there's some view considerations. One thing I do want to bring up though that's important to note is when the city originally, because we did the Berryman project originally and we're still working on it, but we did the 30 lots and the rear fences on there were specifically, the condition was specifically changed by the city to require those to be metal open fencing to allow you to see through. Well, open metal fencing doesn't stop noise mitigation, and it also does open up your view. And I guess one thing that, I don't know if any of the neighbors would be interested in this in the future, but it would be great for maybe you guys on the east lots on there to modify a condition on their site to where they would have the ability to put in a solid wood fencing if they chose to do that in the future, because you do see some sound deadening properties from when you put in solid fence versus an open metal. So giving them the ability to put that in the future, not only a visual cue, if they were in their backyard, unless you're right at the fence looking over, you wouldn't be able to see the site. And you would get some noise deadening if they chose to add that. So again, I don't want to force that on them, but I want to maybe give them an opportunity if that's something you're inclined to allow them to do.
If I read the application correctly, there's no additional lighting being proposed, but the existing lighting, you're proposing that you'll change it to shield it from that.
Yeah, right after the comment, I mean, within 5,
All the outside light bulbs push out to the nighttime.
Yeah, night sky compliant shielded downlight type lights. So you're going to have the same lumens and he's going to get the security benefit that he needs for his site, but you're not going to have that up light, which I think is affecting them.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah, and just want to make absolutely clear, I mean, a masonry or retaining wall is just not consistent with what's been required on any other project like this. And I think we've demonstrated if from an elevated position looking down there, it would do absolutely nothing. I agree with some of the comments from the public, might have been Mr. Schwarzenberger, but the 5-foot no climb fence gives the security. But I think that's in an area where we're not really trying to screen. You don't want to see it. You want the vegetation to kind of not see. You want to make it look more like open space. And I think that's why we intended with our fencing plan. So thank you very much.
A couple of questions for staff then. So if we were to approve this as is there a discrepancy with the masonry wall requirement, or is there discretion with that?
There is discretion for the masonry wall. I can read to you exactly what the code section says, but it does give you some discretion if you don't feel the wall is necessary. Let's see, the screen, it says the screen shall consist of plant material and a solid decorative wall of masonry or similar durable material 6 feet in height, up to 8 feet may be allowed. DRC had determined the 8 feet was appropriate. Openings or pedestrian connections may be required. Oh, sorry. Oh, at the discretion of the review authority. Sorry, there is something in here. Oh, the review authority may waive or approve or a substitute for the requirement of this section involving the screening if they determine that, one, the relationship of the proposed uses make the required screening unnecessary. The intent of this section can be successfully met by means of alternative screening methods. Physical constraints on the site make the required screening infeasible, or the physical characteristics of the site or adjoining parcels make the required screening unnecessary.
Okay. And if I could understand further, so this is not a zoning variation. It's not in front of us because it's a zoning variation. It's in front of us because of the amount of grading being done.
That's correct, yes.
And so I just would like to be clear on what we, as the Planning Commission, are reviewing and approving. There is one of the 3 criteria for it possibly being before us is a possible disruption to the scenic nature of the. Now, how are we to judge that? What's the criteria involved in?
Well, the development is what's the development and the grading that's associated with the use itself is not under discretion. So the use is permitted by right. So it's really just the improvements necessary for the expansion.
And so with some of the trees that'll come down that will make the highway more visible, is that covered under that scenic? Because it strikes me that it's within the intended use of the parcel.
Yes.
So are they prevented necessarily from changing the scenic
Yeah.
views of neighbors?
So I think maybe the way to describe it is if this was already a very flat site, they could go in with a tree removal permit to do a permitted use, and the tree removal would not be an issue. So it's really just that they're having to grade the site, and that's what's going to require that they remove all those trees.
Any other questions? I feel like I'm hogging the mic.
So I read something in here about how saying that Highway 49 might be a scenic highway at some point. Is that a consideration?
It's not considered a scenic highway. What we've determined is that it may meet the eligibility requirements if the city was ever interested in having that kind of a designation. And so I think in the initial study, we review it under that context. But yeah, it does not currently have that designation.
Okay. And can you remind me when did we add in, or when was it included, the masonry wall on the
So that was, I was looking back because I didn't think I had just added it. It's been in there, conditions of approval. It was in there when it went to DRC. So it just, I guess, wasn't, what didn't come up during the discussion at DRC.
Okay, just wanted to double check on that.
But it's in the land use code. That's where it came from.
Any other questions?
I don't have any questions at this point.
I don't have any other questions at this time.
Okay.
For staff.
If there are no further comments or questions, we'd like to vote on the matter.
Is there anything else we should discuss on it as far as?
You know, this is one of the more difficult ones, I think, that's come up before the commission in the past couple of years. And typically, we have more discretion, in my view, when there is a zoning variation before us. And that is not the case. Sorry, public comments are over. I think it's within the property owner's rights to do this. And I think that what I'm encouraged by is that they're listening to public comments. I love the fact that they're putting in those lights that will mitigate the lights coming up. If there's anything that can be done in terms of, something that was lifted up and dropped at 4 a.m., putting that in a quieter part of the yard or doing training with staff to let them know, just keep in mind that they're in adjacent to a residential neighborhood. I think that's great, but I think the applicant has shown some flexibility in trying to hear the concerns of the immediate parcel owners, and I'm encouraged by that.
Yeah, so, I think that because there isn't any expansion of the lighting, it's not under our, it's not our decision to change things like that or add, basically add conditions in which they would have to adhere to. But as far as, is it mostly just like, so with the trees, this is something that we can, I looked at it, was it 38 trees are being removed?
36.
36, okay. And those are mostly, did we have that graphic?
There is an exhibit with the tree
I was
removal.
trying to find it myself,
Yeah.
but I think that this is something we could. And besides trees, the visual, using the privacy fence that we had in the DRC, it was, the DRC made a recommendation that that we would increase the privacy fence and make sure that there were slats in there on the Taylorville Road.
Yes, yeah. And I don't think I heard any objection to that condition. It was really the 8-foot fence along the western side.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly. What's that?
Okay.
We want it 6 foot on.
Yes.
To match the existing height, but add slats.
Yes, okay, because really the difference isn't going to create much.
Based on line of sight.
Based on line of sight. And the challenge here is that I don't think that there's really much as far as a fence that could block view or block sound on this west side.
I don't think it could either. I just don't think that unless the conditions are being questioned as being unattainable or that in contention, that there's anything for us as a basis to vote no. And I do agree that, this may not have needed to come before us, except that I love that we have the ability to hear everybody, because there's not a lot of forums where everybody can get together in this community and have their concerns raised. And I think we've done that tonight.
And so, was there any, from what I've been able to tell, and I don't know if there's any discussion as far as on this southwestern corner, it looks like there are trees that are not going to be impacted, as what I can tell. And it's all basically the south and the southeast corner. And so, yeah, I mean, that's where the expansion is taking place. I don't see anything that really can be included as far as a recommendation from more than the DRC recommended.
I agree.
On this project.
So can a brave soul put a motion forward?
Do we want to talk about how we want to change the condition number 7? So it currently reads, install an 8-foot fence of decorative wall or masonry or similar durable material along the western property line. Do we want to say, so the applicant has proposed a 5-foot wire no climb fence? Does that work for them, for you guys? Do you want me to?
And I just want to double check that's a continuation of on the western side and the south.
Yeah, it goes on the south. I think the DRC had said that they didn't care if there was a fence on the south.
Mhm.
They only wanted one on the west.
Yes, but the one in the west is going to be the same as what was said by the.
Yes, I believe that was what the plan showed.
Okay, so it's a continuation rather than changing it up. Okay.
So we would note that as a modification to condition 6.
So I'll, condition 7, and now let me just say 5. I'll read it out once we. Yes, I think it has modified. Okay. So the condition would read, install a 5-foot wire, no climb fence, as modified in an exhibit provided at the public hearing along the western property line. And then it had continued on to say, with incorporated plant material, it provides screening that benefits the Berryman Loop Ranch or Berryman Loop neighborhood. Do we want to just say as indicated in this landscaping plan, in the updated landscaping plan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
Okay. Just read that back to you. Okay.
Do you want to do the whole recommendation or all the language so that we can vote on it?
Oh, okay,
On that?
sure.
Yeah, sorry to ask.
Nope, that's okay. Let me just, before we move on to that, we're changing condition number 8 to require a height of 6 feet along a fence along Taylorville Road with the privacy slats. And then condition number 4 was that the applicant's landscape architect shall submit a letter specifying that the landscaping and, oh, sorry, that's not what I wanted to put it. Do we want to add, I guess. Yeah, I guess we don't need a condition for the species change out. That's what I was trying to accommodate, but we can make that a judgment call with the, as a substantially compliant with what was provided here. So it's just a condition change to 7 and 8, those two that we were talking about. Well, 9, it might be a little harder. 9 is storage material within the enclosed area shall not be higher than the approved perimeter fence or wall. And that is a standard in our code unless a use permit authorizes it to be higher.
Could we add that suggested language?
Well, I mean, if it requires a use permit, is that something that would then just be applied for?
That was not.
Separately from this?
Yeah, that's not, I mean, it could have been applied for with this. It wasn't included in this application.
Yeah, I would just view it as not relevant to this proposal. I mean, it seems a condition that requires a use permit regardless, whether you were to stay the same size or expand.
Yeah, I mean, I can add the language unless a use permit is required. So,
We just delete it?
It applies anyway, right? So that it's just, having it included, I don't think adds anything.
that's true. It's just a standard in the
But
code.
it is a condition, and it's
Yeah.
a condition before and after this, so I have no problem having it included either, if you, it applies.
Yeah. And then, just because I'm hearing whispers in the back, the existing operation wouldn't be affected. It would just be the newly proposed operation or new expansion area.
Yeah.
Yes, please.
My only concern is we're creating an inconsistency with the development code. I mean, as I stated before, the work trucks are taller than 6 feet. They're even taller than 8 feet. So we're just setting it up for an issue potentially. And I'd love to just add onto the tail end of that, consistent with the existing business operation. I mean, it's been there for 50 years.
Wouldn't that put us in the position of like, we would at that point be giving a de facto use permit, which is, I think,
Yeah, if
outside of
we're-
our remit.
We can't intensify what essentially is a legal nonconforming use unless they go through the appropriate,
I just don't think that's us.
I do wonder if it's just vehicles, I'm not sure that would count as storage material.
If you stack something, I mean, if you stand a ladder up,
Yeah, I'm just saying the vehicles themselves may not count as storage material.
yeah, that's true.
So that might not be an issue. It's probably more like stockpiled material or stacked,
It's
construction
just,
equipment.
it's an odd one. You could probably drive by 20 sites that have been approved in the last 10 years.
Yeah.
Around the Grass Valley, and nobody complies with that code. So I'm just,
Yeah.
that was just one that's in the conditions, yeah.
And I'm sorry, I don't want to make this longer than it needs to be, but we've let the applicant speak a couple times. If there's anything new or relevant that a member of the public wants to say, now would be the time.
Now that I got my second win, I do have something I'd like to add. So along our fence line for Berryman Loop, that back fence, that's the trail for all the animals. We have skunks, we have 3 kinds of squirrels, we have a red fox, we got a black bear, or I don't know if it's a black bear, but it's a bear, you know what I mean? And they're all behind there. So my question is if you were to approve that, where's those animals gonna go? They're gonna go in our backyards because we're already experiencing that right now. So this is just gonna intensify it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am. I normally we wouldn't do this, but I want everyone to have a chance to say their piece.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Thank you. I appreciate it. My question is kind of an aside. I live at 170 Berryman Loop. And can you tell me what, we were told when we bought our home that was all going to become more residential housing below us. Can you tell me what the plan is now for that? I mean, what is it zoned? Is it residential or is there some multi-use land there that I don't know about?
Well, the parcel in question is zoned light industrial, which is like
M1. Yeah, and I would encourage you to reach out to me. I can provide you a zoning map showing
a
you
larger map, but just the parcel in question is
Right.
light industrial,
Yeah.
and their use is consistent with that.
Right.
And that largely dictates what we approve as a planning committee.
Okay, so does that address, we're having problems with runoff water right now on Berryman Loop that starts at the top of the hill, and by the time you get down to the bottom, people's mulches in the drains and
Yeah,
out. I
there
mean,
are-
will them leveling that, do you see what I'm saying, raising their parking lot, is that gonna create more runoff?
There's actually a storm drain being added and some runoff mitigation. So in their application and in their design, and I would expect there to be better water runoff management as a result of the expansion than as it exists currently, unless I've read that wrong.
No, they do have to get a grading and drainage plan approved by our city engineering department.
Okay, and I heard somebody say something about there's swampland or a swampy area there. I'm not aware of that. I mean, I know there's a creek that goes through there when I walk down. Can you tell me what they're referring to?
It's a non-wetlands, but it was like a borderline area adjacent to the parcel. What was the term?
Wet meadow.
Wet meadow.
Yeah.
It's to the south of the property, it's
Oh.
further south. It's been mapped by the biologists as part of the verification.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'll reach out to you because I do want to find out.
All right. If we're good, how do we feel about the conditions?
So just those two changes to condition 7, to install the 5-foot wire, no climb fence along that western edge, and then the chain link fencing on Taylorville needs to be a height of 6 feet. And then I've got 9 in there right now. We can remove it. It still is required because it's in our development code.
Agreed. Are you able then to, read us that? with
Yeah,
clarification?
do you want me to remove condition 9?
No, I
Okay.
don't think we can.
Okay, yeah, it's still applicable, whether or not it's in there. Okay, so the recommendation is to adopt the tiered mitigated negative declaration prepared for the project as the appropriate level of environmental review in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act and guidelines, shown as attachment 1 to the staff report. Adoption of the mitigation monitoring and reporting program, implementing and monitoring all mitigation measures in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act and guidelines. Adopting the findings of fact for approval of the C&D development review permit as presented in the staff report and as modified at this meeting. And then approval of the development review permit as presented and in accordance with the conditions of approval as presented and modified at this meeting.
I so move.
I second.
We have a vote.
Commissioner Spites,
Yes.
Vice Chair McDonald,
Yes.
Chairman Bruletti,
Yes.
3 yeses, motion carries.
Thank you, everybody that took the time to come in to provide comment on the item. We appreciate it greatly. We still have the next item. There are 3 items on the agenda. Can we move on to item 2, please?
Wanting to make sure this is on. Perfect. To start, good evening, Honorable Planning Commissioners. My name is Vanessa Franken. I'm an associate planner here with the Planning Division inside of the Community Development Department. It's my first time presenting before you all today, some of which I've met, some I have yet to meet, so happy to meet you over this presentation. Today, I will be presenting a project nicknamed the Gates Place Subdivision. The project applicant proposing the subdivision is Habitat for Humanity. Their project representative is Martin Woods from SEO Planning Engineering firm, who is here with me today alongside the applicant, Habitat for Humanity. They will be available for any questions at the end of my presentation. This project does have a lot of moving parts, although not complicated. So I also want to mention that my staff report does detail a great amount of information. So in my presentation, I will be breaking down all the components for this project, but I will be referring to the staff report for any details that I may be skimming over in the presentation. We have had a chock full agenda, so I want to be respectful of your time, but I do want to give this project respect in breaking down the components that are tied to the project. As I had mentioned, this project has a lot of components, specifically 9, but before I dive into those components, I do want to start with the story of how this project started. So back in 2024, the project applicant team approached the Community Development Department, CDD, and said, hey, this is what we want to build, how do we do it, and what's the right pathway? With that meeting, it was considered a pre-application that was submitted. They met with our team in multiple departments, and we gave them, planning division specifically, an avenue to do what they want to build, which is an affordable housing only project. It was during that pre-application review that planning staff advised that certain entitlements that you see before you would be required as a part of this project to make what they want to do happen. To quickly recap, there are a total of 9 components, as you can see here. There's a major development review, a request to rezone the property to add a combining district overlay, a zoning text amendment, a general plan text amendment, a planned development permit. There's also a proposed 16-lot tentative subdivision map. This map is, like I said, a 100% deed-restricted affordable housing project. It proposes a community garden. It also proposes a 2-phase build-out, and there's a total of 3 elevation home types associated with the subdivision as well. In addition to those components, the subdivision is also requesting a total of 4 years to build out this development. The request is needed due to market conditions and funding. To top off the list, there's also draft conditions of approval, an initial study which has been determined as a mitigated negative declaration, and the associated mitigation monitoring and reporting program before you today for your consideration to make a recommendation to City Council. Here is the project parcel highlighted in red border. There is north arrow for directional context, north, west, south, east. The project does fall within the Brunswick community, specifically on the west side of Highway 49. You can see the Fowler Shopping Center here as that large building as a landmarker with the associated parking lot. We have Nevada City Highway to the west, and then we have the project in the middle of what you may see as a V. Gates Place is a roadway that leads up directly to the project parcel. For additional landmarkers, at the point of that V that you may see is Lumberjacks. So this is an aerial image, it's outdated. Currently, that point of the V is an existing Sherwin-Williams paint store. As I mentioned, Gates Place roadway stems along the frontage of the road. Gates Place is a 2-lane access road that would be utilized to facilitate traffic in and out of the project. Traffic from the project has a couple of different options, from using Nevada City Highway to head to Nevada City, using Brunswick Road, which connects from Nevada City directly to the Highway 49, Highway 20 interchange. Gates Place actually continues north off of the screenshot before you, and it actually ends in a dead-end cul-de-sac. To kick off with the description of the project site, it is currently vacant, although it has been developed in the past with the residents. What is made of on the property currently, it really is just rolling meadows and some trees. The topography of the site is generally flat, although there are some gentle slopes and man-made indentations from previous development that was facilitated on the site. I'll be touching on these man-made indentations and slopes a little bit more throughout my project. The current zoning of the property is Corporate Business Park, or CBP for short. The CBP zone is intended to facilitate offices and administrative uses. The CBP zone does allow for housing projects. However, those housing projects that are allowed are only allowed with the use permit and in conjunction with commercial services, so specifically mixed use. If someone was doing a townhouse condo with businesses on the bottom, residential on top, there is a pathway to do that currently in the zone with approval of a use permit. Commercial services is not Habitat for Humanity's ballgame. They specialize specifically in affordable housing only projects, hence why we're here today. The general plan designation of the site is Business Park, abbreviated as BP for short. You will all begin to hear me use a lot more abbreviation moving forward, so thanks for keeping up. The BP designation is intended to accommodate a full range of commercial uses in a master planned setting. Here we have our zoning layer map overlaid on the area. The CBP zone is indicated in orange. We have our project site highlighted in red border to really contrast against the zoning districts. Directly east of the site is Gates Place roadway. Directly east of Gates Place is a landscape strip which acts as a buffer between the highway. Directly north of the site is currently vacant, although also zoned CBP. Immediately south of the site is also a vacant parcel, also zoned CBP. Directly west of the site is a commercial corridor. As I mentioned earlier, that's where Fowler Shopping Center is at. We also know that there's Ace Hardware, so tons of commercial services and potential employment opportunities. And what's really nice about this project is that it is walking distance. So Google Maps says it's about a quarter of a mile, so for the average capable person, it's about a 5-minute walk. Focusing on exactly what is adjacent to the property, immediately west in the C2 zone, currently is a florist shop, a coffee drive-through. There used to be a motorsport building, which is no longer there. And as I had mentioned earlier, there's a Sherwin-Williams in place of where that Lumberjacks used to be. Oh, excuse me, Lumberjacks is still there, but Sherwin-Williams has also moved in. So the project proposes a 16-lot tentative subdivision map with a 2-phase build-out indicated here by the orange dashed line, and a call out to those phases just to make things more clear. Homes will be accessed by internal 2-lane roadways, and there is also 2 points of entry into the subdivision as well. The lettered lots are associated with those man-made indentations and slopes I had mentioned earlier. These natural occurring characteristics of the property are actually what's going to facilitate drainage as a result of this subdivision. So those natural topography features will be retained, and all drainage caused from the subdivision will be facilitated on site, excuse me. So the subdivision does propose an HOA, so things like the roads, sidewalk frontage along Gates Place, and that drainage system I mentioned will be 100% maintained by the HOA. The site was developed previously, so there are existing connections for water and wastewater services. NID will be the provider of both. Grass Valley Police Department and Fire Department will provide emergency services, and PG&E will be the provider for electricity. With the approval of a development project, the city's municipal code allows for 1 year to effectuate a permit, which basically just means you have to get a building permit to solidify the approval of any project that you have received approval for. The request of this project for your consideration to make a recommendation on is to allow a 4-year timeframe for this applicant to utilize. And to really reiterate the applicant's request, this is requested for your consideration because of market conditions currently, and also the ability to get funding in today's economy. The tentative subdivision map does have a proposed landscape plan. The city's municipal code does require front yard landscaping as well as street side landscaping along public areas. The landscape in the front yard is required to be irrigated. It's required to have a combination of street trees, shrubs, and also ground cover or turf, depending on whatever the developer is proposing. What we have here is a visual of what exactly is proposed. So street trees that are proposed are two types. There's the desert willow and also the western redbud. I had mentioned earlier that trees are being removed. 11 specifically are. Applicants are required to mitigate tree removal. More than double the amount of trees that are being removed are being proposed. So the planning division has seen that what is proposed does mitigate tree removal. As a part of landscaping, there are very quickly paced fire safe policies that are moving faster than what our municipal code is able to catch up with. At this time, the planning staff has incorporated a condition of approval into the project to allow staff-based approval of any landscape design should that occur in the future if fire safe policies take a left turn or a right turn. We're really just trying to keep up, and due to the affordable nature of these homes, we really want to make sure that we're able to streamline any changes as efficiently as possible. This property, like most within California, the county, our city, does fall within a state fire severity zone. So what that means is it's prone to fire. The roads within the development are completely reviewed and have been designed to meet appropriate standards for emergency services. Landscape and tree placement has been specifically designed to meet defensible space requirements as well. And I had mentioned earlier that incorporated condition to allow staff-based approval when accommodating fire safety policies, should that occur in the future. Now we're moving into the meat and potatoes of the 9 components we just touched on the map. So a major development review is required whenever a development over 10,000 square feet is proposed, which this absolutely falls within. Plan development permit is also required and requested. What a PD or plan development is the pathway to allow a project to deviate from standards specifically stated in the city's municipal code. So if you don't know what development standards are, that's things like height, setbacks, minimum lot size, minimum lot width. So these are all design features a part of a map or a development that have to be taken into consideration. The items specifically requested to be allowed to deviate from those standards are listed here. I do have those requests explicitly stated in the staff report, contrasted with exactly what the city code requires for context. And I believe that this is on page 8 of the staff report. PDs, planned developments, are not free. You get something, we want something. The something that we want, which is based on criteria in the PD ordinance, our municipal code, is things like community character enhancement and also environmental preservation. So as we saw on that landscape slide, there is a community garden proposed. This has been a good faith effort from the applicant to appease the ordinance criteria, which absolutely does enhance community character. And another innovative design feature that this project incorporated to appease this criteria in the PD ordinance, plan development, is environmental preservation. So those man-made indentations, those gentle slopes that are being used to facilitate drainage, they're actually bioretention ponds, so natural features that collect water, plants grow out of them, they need to be maintained every so often. That has been seen by the planning division as an acceptable offer to preserve and naturally occurring environmental characteristics using the natural topography of the land. I say all this to explain how this project specifically meets the criteria of the planned development permit. The project also includes a zoning text amendment and a general plan text amendment. The project proposes a rezone of the property. To officiate the rezone, a text amendment to the zoning code and general plan is required. The zoning text amendment proposes an outline of rules and design criteria for this new zone that is being created. This new zone that's being created is called the Regional Housing Needs Allocation Overlay, RHNA for short. You'll hear me refer to it as RHNA. This RHNA zone is explicitly for affordable housing projects aimed to meet the state's housing obligation. So for those that may not be aware, the state has certain numbers that they push on the city, Nevada County, and other jurisdictions in California for us to meet our housing quota numbers. And that's exactly what this project is and what it aims to do. The zoning text amendment requires this project and any other future applications that wish to utilize this new zone to meet the municipal code's existing standards for the R2 zone, which is, it's called two-family, R2 for short. The zoning text amendment also specifically outlines that any of those who want to utilize this new zoning overlay is required to go through the same process that this development is, which is you have to go through a rezone, you have to go through multiple hearing bodies, and you have to be able to prove and be 100% deed restricted, affordable only housing project. The general plan text amendment associated with this project proposes a single sentence to the general plan for the business park designation. The sentence says that when a project is specifically aimed to meet state housing target numbers, that a housing project can go in. So what the general plan text amendment really does is refine and offer a clear explanation of what types of housing projects may go in. At this time, in the business park general plan designation, residential uses are not necessarily permitted or allowed. I did want to call out that a thorough detail of the project's consistency with the city's general plan policies, as well as the 2019 adopted housing element, have been clearly added into my staff report. For time's sake, I will be skipping over that, but I did want to call that out. Another component of the project is the request to rezone the property to add a combining district overlay. As I had mentioned earlier, the new rezone overlay name is the Regional Housing Needs Allocation, which by its very name is indicative of what it is and what it qualifies for, which is 100% deed restricted housing only projects. The beauty of this overlay is that the original designation, corporate business park, will remain. However, because it's an addition, what it does is offer the flexibility, but it retains the integrity of the original zoning. So we're not changing the zone to completely something different. It's exactly what it is and then some. This project was not able to be exempted per California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA for short. A initial study mitigated negative declaration was prepared. What the study does is look into potential impacts that this project may have impacts to. Some elements for quick reference include air quality, biological resources, noise, greenhouse gases, and any of those elements that were impacted did and do have mitigation measures that have been incorporated into a mitigated monitoring and reporting program, MMRP for short, that the developer will be required to adhere to. The initial study is a part of this agenda package. The study itself was published for public review. There was a 30-day comment period, and during that period, and I should say specifically after, there were no comments received from the public on the environment, or on the study, excuse me. To conclude my presentation, required findings for each entitlement has been stated within the staff report. The project was heard before the Development Review Committee on, actually last week, November 12th. The Development Review Committee made a recommendation to approve the project as is with no modifications. Today, staff would like to recommend that the Planning Commission make a recommendation to City Council to approve the application, which includes those 9 components. And I'll reiterate here, the request to rezone the property to add a combining district, the zoning text and general plan text amendment, a planned development permit. There's also a major development permit and a 16-lot tentative subdivision map with associated draft conditions of approval, and then and also a recommendation to adopt the initial study, mitigation negative declaration, and the mitigation monitoring reporting program. I did want to state that the project applicants are here with me today, and at this time, I would now like to return control of the floor to the Planning Commission. Thank you.
So the water retention features will be retained, and they're just passive systems. Nothing directs water to them, but they'll be kept in place to help mitigate runoff or to encourage water soaking in during storm events.
I'm going to call upon the applicant who can better explain the system than I can.
Very good.
Martin, would you mind explaining the drainage features on site?
Hello again.
Yeah, good evening, Planning Commissioners. Martin Wood, SCO Plan Engineering. Yeah, to talk about the drainage currently on the site, similar to the Sherman-Williams project, there's an altered drainage that occurred from the old mill site up above where Tractor Supply is now, and there's kind of a drainage feature that comes down through there. That was evaluated by Greg Matuzak, our biologist, when he looked at the overall property for both Sherman-Williams and for the site, and determined that that was an altered drainage where we're able to basically put storm drain in there to basically make better flow characteristics. So that's what we did for the Sherman-Williams project. And this project's going to have a similar thing where we have a storm drain that allows crossing of the roadway that goes east-west from Gates Place. The discussion about the retention areas, those will be planted and those will basically act like a sponge. Those are going to deal with our MS4 drainage requirements for both water quality and retaining the necessary storm events for our impervious surfaces that come off the roadways. And then for each lot in compliance with that also, we have small amount of infiltration trenches that'll deal with rooftop drainages. So very consistent with projects like this in the city and on small lots. But we're trying to make it a feature. So.
Yeah, absolutely. For anybody that's an urban rainwater reuse geek, Brad Lancaster's video, Planting Rainwater for Abundance, he lives outside of Phoenix in a suburb. That city actually uses more conditioned civic water or less conditioned civic water than the storm drainage system pushes outside of the city limits. He thought that was crazy, so he started cutting into the hardscaping and directing water into those tree wells and actively using them. His neighborhood is about 6 degrees cooler in the summer than several streets over. And it's a good lesson for us in the West dealing with fires, that increasing the amount of organics in our neighborhoods increases the amount of water carrying capacity on our soils. And it's just a good overall urban planning feature to put in there. So it's a great thing to look at as a source of inspiration. Can we ask you about the community garden? I'm not, does each, so it looked like there were 14, I don't know if it's drawn to scale or accurate, but 14 planter beds, 16 homes. Does everybody have their own planter bed, or how's that going to work?
Do you want me to roll into kind of applicant? I have a few comments on the site and I can address all that if you want me to do that now, or just that one item.
Any items you'd like to bring up?
Okay, yeah, we'll start with that. That's a great one. So on the site here, thank you, Vanessa, for your staff presentation. And this map is great and kind of showing what's going on as the site is very usable. You know, it's got some mild to moderate slopes. The steepest part of the site that's probably elevated is in the northwesterly quadrant up there in that triangle. And we tried, as we do with many habitat projects, we try to make an efficient site. We try to make one that isn't going to be incredibly expensive on infrastructure and trying to create the lots. And we did several different layouts on this site, and that corner did not want to be a house. So, I mean, we looked at it many ways, and in discussions with Habitat, what we came up with is, that would be a great place for a community garden. They've kind of wanted to do one in the past, and they didn't really have the right spot. And we thought on this particular site that we could integrate it in. So it'll have a soft surface trail that kind of wraps around from the hammerhead that goes around up to that upper area, and that would give areas for the residents here to, you're trying to create a community. So we just thought it's a great element to add to this particular site. And then kind of just back, my overarching discussion of the project, I'm just really excited to be here for this project. This is one of these ones that just kind of fell together with when the Sherman-Williams was doing theirs, and they had the zoning considerations. They had two parcels, one that was commercial, one that was business park. And business park zoning in the community is probably the least utilized right now, or least, not saying it has a need, but it's the least desired right now. And maybe that'll change at some point, but I applaud city staff in meeting with them and basically, and to clarify a couple of things, business park allows residential units, and our 16 units that we're proposing is exactly, I think, our density that's already allowed. The only thing that's not normally allowed with business park is you normally have to have some type of business park component, and the residential is a bonus. And we basically, with Habitat having such success in the community and making it 100% affordable, we think that more than, I guess, exceeds the PD request, which is very minor on this. And this text amendment is not going to cause a lot of other properties to all develop this way. It's very unique in the sense that, if somebody wants to come and bring a really needed thing in our community, which is affordable housing, 100%, then this gives a mechanism to allow it to happen. And Vanessa touched on the proximity. It's fantastic in terms of walkable to employment and services and shopping. And with Sherwin-Williams going in, the car wash, that area has seen some improvements to some of the infrastructure. We extended water up to the site. So it kind of meets that criteria that's ideal for Habitat, as they have a unique way of bringing affordability to housing, which in most cases is not affordable. And I think this site is an ideal one for that. A couple of the unique things on the lots themselves is we do have a 2-bedroom, a 3-bedroom, and a 4-bedroom type unit, and we've laid it out such as universal design. They go through a very extensive process of who they select for their families or couples or singles that would have the individual houses. And we made basically whoever they select for a particular lot, they can put the right house on it. And similar to some of their other developments, they vary some of the colors and different aspects of the facades to give some variation. I know that was a consideration of DRC. Guess what else can I say on it? I just think it's a great project, and if there's any additional questions, be happy to try to answer them. And I am here with Lorraine Larson, Executive Director of Habitat, and I know there's some board members back there too. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions for city staff or the applicant before we open it up to comment?
I have no questions.
No, at this time.
Are there any members of the public who care to make any comments at this time?
Bob Brandstrom from Grass Valley. I love the project. I like the idea of community garden and keeping some of the native trees. Looks like a neighborhood I might want to live in. One question I had in looking at the drainage through there, rather than a straight line of just a straight pipe running through there, it actually had 4 right angles that just looked really strange. And I'm wondering if that would impede flow in some way, or if that's a necessary thing, or whether that should be straight, or would be better if it were straight. Thank you.
I thought that was a delineation between the phases, but is that the drainage line?
That's the phase line.
Okay, it's the phase line. Okay.
This is
It's just the delineation between phases 1 and 2 and not the drainage line.
Thank you.
Denny Silverstein, resident of Grass Valley. This is a great project. I love to see this kind come before you. We need affordable housing a lot, so go for it.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments?
Randall Gates. I own the property above to the north. Is there going to be an easement to Nevada City Highway? Did you mention that? Or did I misunderstand that?
So the access to the project utilizes Gate Place, and Gate Place connects to Nevada City Highway.
Right,
Both
but there's
of
not
what-
a separate easement?
No, there's
Oh, no, I
not.
didn't think so.
Mhm.
And then what are you going to name it?
Let's ask Habitat if they've thought about anything.
We don't own it yet, so right now it's just Gates Place, so, but we haven't really thought about that in any extensive way.
I vote for it to
Any
be that
ideas?
Gates Place subdivision. I think that sounds good.
You like it?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's Gates Place is named after my family. I own the property north, as I said. I support the CVP RENA affiliation. I think we need more affordable housing in this area. So, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. That is nice to hear. Are there any other comments from in the room?
Hi, my name is Edward Bento. I'm the Executive Director of the Contractors Association of Truckee Tahoe. I think I'm a little bit long way from Kansas, but I wanted to say hello. You know, I wasn't asked to be here by Habitat for Humanity, but I was aware of the project for a while. And so we wholeheartedly support this and hope you guys give it a thumbs up and pass it over to City Council. Thank you.
Are there any online or virtual?
Yes, Matthew Colton, public comment for the Habitat for Humanities project. I haven't heard anything mentioned about Olympia Creek that runs through there. I'm sure when we just had this rain, it was moving quite well. And it's unfortunate that part of it got diverted and undergrounded through the Sherman-Williams part of the project. And I see here that they're showing the picture of all the houses, and I guess a pipe that goes through that's going to be the creek underneath the ground. And that's a loss it's a great bird habitat along that waterway. And it's a great tie-in also to the old sawdust burning kiln at the top of the creek up there at the old mill site. So more planning, please, and less destruction of the natural habitat that would be a great asset to this project. Thank you.
I would like to respond to that comment. So the State Department of California Department of Fish and Wildlife does have an online wetlands and protected water features website. When I put in this address, it brings in the whole entire area. When I utilize that site, it does a site check and it indicates any type of protected wetlands or seasonal streams, creeks, riparian areas. That was not on this property at all. And as Martin had mentioned earlier, a certified biologist had actually conducted a biological study, which also includes a pedestrian survey where they walk the site and then they specifically look out for any characteristics of any type of protected wetlands. So and in addition to that, as I had mentioned, this initial study that was prepared concluded the details that the biologist found. And if you guys don't know, even though we notice to the state and they may not be required to review, they still keep a very close eye on our project. So if we were to do something incorrectly, you best believe they would let us know.
Understood. Thank you. Are there any other online comments?
That is the end of the public comments.
All right. Any other questions from commissioners?
Not at this time.
Just a comment then. I think the project's beautifully conceived, wonderful usage. I love the walkability of it and the thoughts about community aspects. With the community garden especially being very welcome and I think should be copied in other development.
And if I could add one additional comment, I welcome this very much for people that struggle and need housing. It really is good for our community, so.
We have a motion on the item.
Would you like me to go through the recommendation?
Always appreciate it.
So the recommendation is that the Planning Commission recommend to the City Council that they approve application 25 PLN-20, which includes the following actions: adopt the initial study mitigated negative declaration pursuant to sections 15075 and 15097 of the California Environmental Quality Act and guidelines. Adopt the mitigation monitoring and reporting program, implementing all mitigation measures in accordance with the California Environmental Quality Act guidelines. Adopt the findings of fact for 1 through 26 for approval of the project rezone, general plan and zoning text amendments, planning, development, permit, and tentative subdivision map as presented in the staff report. Adopt the general plan text amendment to allow residential only development in the BP designation when the project is comprised of 100% affordable housing. And approve the zoning text amendment to allow affordable housing projects in the CBP designation to take advantage of the RENA combining district to allow residential only development when in conjunction with the 100% affordable housing proposal. And approve the rezone for a combining district, associated zoning text amendment, plan development permit, and tentative subdivision map in accordance with the conditions of approval as presented in the staff report. Approve the plan development permit in accordance with the conditions of approval as presented in the staff report. And finally, approve the tentative subdivision map and development review in accordance with the conditions of approval as presented in the staff report.
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Spites?
Yes.
Vice Chair McDonald?
Yes.
Chairman Bruletti?
Yes.
3 yeses, motion carries.
Thank you. Much appreciated and wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
Very detailed. Thank you so much.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
Can we move on to item 3?
Yes. So item 3 is for an addition of a condition of approval to the approved Dorsey Marketplace project to allow phasing of the project over a 7-year period. On April 28th, 2020, the City Council approved the Dorsey Marketplace project, Alternative B, and also certified the final EIR that was prepared for the project. The approved project consisted of applications for a general plan amendment, zoning map amendment, development review permit, and use permit for a proposed mixed-use development on a 26.8 acre infill site. The approved Alternative B includes 104,350 square feet of commercial space, 8,500 square feet of office space, and 172 apartment units. On September 10th, 2024, City Council adopted resolution number 2024-66, certifying the updated final environmental impact report for the Dorsey Marketplace project, which included a subsequent EIR that was prepared to analyze traffic from air quality impacts from traffic stemming from the project. The applicant is requesting to modify the conditions of approval to add a new condition, A4, which is added in your staff reports, to allow construction of the Dorsey Marketplace project over a 7-year period. The phasing is necessary to accommodate the site remediation, site and infrastructure improvements, and logistics of tenant acquisition, as well as meet market conditions. The applicant has provided a 7-year phasing plan, which is outlined in attachment 1 to your staff reports. The added condition of approval states as follows: the Dorsey Marketplace project may be constructed in phases within a 7-year period as approved by the City Council of the City of Grass Valley. Minor modifications to the phasing program may be approved by the planning director. The phased project shall remain eligible for extensions of time for no more than 2 12-month periods in accordance with the development code. Without this permit revision, the project is subject to standard project timelines as outlined in the development code, which requires a building permit within 1 year of approval and at least 1 building permit per year thereafter. The standard timeline is impractical for projects of this size and scope, particularly considering there is a soil cleanup component. You just approved a phasing plan for a much smaller project. The development code allows for a project to be phased over several years so long as it is conditioned. So the development code does accommodate this, and you just need to include a condition so that it's phased over time. And phasing is typical for larger developments such as the Dorsey Marketplace. Staff prepared the attached addendum to the approved EIR, which determined that additional conditions of approval, the additional condition of approval doesn't constitute a substantial change to the approved project that would require a subsequent EIR. And we do have the applicant, Warren Hughes, on Zoom if you have questions for him or for me.
Would the applicant care to make a statement? Mr. Hughes, can you hear us? And I think you're muted. There we go. You want to test your audio? We can't hear you yet.
I should be unmuted.
There you go. We can hear you.
Okay, great.
So I believe Amy captured the issue at hand this evening. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. But as a brief overview, I can tell you that a project of this size, at full build out, we're looking at a $70 million investment in terms of preparing the site, securing tenants, paying commissions, securing financing, and it's a long, involved process. The owners would love nothing more than for it to go faster, but just the reality of negotiating with major tenants, finalizing those leases can take a year or two, and then financing to build this project. It just takes time. So I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Any questions for city staff or the applicant?
I have a question for city staff. Is this something that is been, is this kind of a normal process to extend an
So
application like this or make this?
normally you would include it in the initial approval. So
Okay.
yeah, it probably should have been done back in 2020 when the project was initially approved. It came up because I started looking, they're getting near their 1 year mark from the date well, this one is kind of a complicated process because the courts had to certify that we had actually fulfilled the obligation with the subsequent EIR. Anyway, so that date is we're nearing that date, and so I had asked where they were on the project, and we determined that they really needed more time.
Okay, so there wasn't a reason to not include it when this wasn't?
No, I think it
This
just
was an
wasn't.
oversight, is what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
so, yeah.
Is it just correct to assume that if our requirements change in year 7 in terms of what we would need from the project, that as it's phased out, we would be able to apply those standards at that time?
I actually think it probably is vested with our current, once we approve a project, it's vested with our current approval. It probably depends on a little bit on what the changes are. Is there something specific that you're worried about?
No, not specific. I just wonder if we should be granting 7-year exceptions when our standards can't be expected to be the same in 7 years. Our standards are maybe reflective of our priorities, and those can't be expected to be, 7 years from today, the same as they were in 2020, or, it seems a long length of time to be grandfathered in the original design.
Our development standards don't change all that much over time. There hasn't been too many, changes to the development code, certainly since I've been here, and I don't think over the last, for reference, 7 years.
So even over a 7-year period, you wouldn't expect that to be a concern?
Yeah, no, not, we don't have drastic changes to our development code over that period of time generally.
There was a public comment that was sent in from CEA Foundation regarding possibly the project approval lapsing. It says the approvals for the Dorsey Marketplace project expired on September 10th, 2025.
No, so the year would be from when, because I went over this with our attorney, the time the courts, I think the city council certified it in November, and then it took like another month for the courts to actually certify that we'd fulfilled our obligation. So it's when the courts actually fulfilled, stated that obligation fulfilled.
So it's in the near future when it would expire if we don't extend it.
You're right, that's right.
Okay. Those are the only questions I had.
So just to clarify, this is inaccurate, September 10th, 2025, that it was expired.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the September 10th date was.
That may have been when city council approved the EIR, but our lawsuit was not cleared and certified by the court until the later date.
Yeah.
Is that correct, Amy?
Yes, that is correct, and that does look like that they're suggesting. And then I will say they did So while we were going through this process, the applicant did submit for an extension of time in the event this didn't go through, which is a staff level approval. So.
Okay. Should we open it up to public comments, or is there anything else we would like to ask at this time?
I have nothing to ask at this time.
Are there any comments in the room?
Good evening. I am Ralph Silberstein from CEA Foundation. For the evidence presented, the approvals of the Dorsey Marketplace project expired on September 10th, over 60 days ago. Citing Grass Valley Development Code Item 17.74.06, time limits and extensions, there doesn't seem to be a legal basis for the Planning Commission to reinstate an expired permit or project approval, unless additional legal justification is provided, which would allow for the proposed action of granting the proposed phasing plan. The item should be denied. We would be greatly concerned if the city assumes a policy of approving project permits which are expired, especially in the case in which the approval is based upon a phasing proposal that lacks any specific commitments to ever begin construction. The first 3 years actions in the phasing plan list vague activities which have little or no measurable deliverables or direct relationships to starting work on an active permit. Basically, shopping for tenants, drawing improvement plans are outside of the actions which would constitute exercising of the permits or approvals from the city. On-site work doesn't begin until year 5, according to this plan. And the phasing plan lists, quote, acceptance of public improvements from the city, unquote. In other words, this phasing plan would basically allow the project to lie dormant for years, and then the developer would expect approval of a different plan. The developer is basically saying, let me wait a few years, and then if we get some tenants lined up and if we get some funding, we will maybe come back with a changed project, which we expect the city would then allow to go forward. This seems like an abuse of the notion of both a phasing plan and the permitting process. Please adhere to the development code. Recommend denial of this application and free up the entitlements so the city can move forward with some realistic and hopefully something that would address our affordable housing crisis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
This is actually why I came today. If at all possible, I think that your question about potential changes to the city, the development code may not have changed. I'm not sure you were the ones who recommended this project to begin with. I didn't think so, because there was initially affordable housing attached to this project, and the previous commissioning council allowed that to be deleted from this project. That's the type of thing I would hope you wouldn't want to omit over a 7-year period and let them get away with no affordable housing included in this project. So if you do approve the extension, perhaps with that consideration that they should put that affordable housing component back into their plan. Thank you.
Good evening again, Commissioners. Bob Brandstrom from the city of Grass Valley. I've been following this project for 8 or 9 years. Since I first heard about it, I toured the property before they ever brought it to the design review or the planning commission. This project has morphed over the years, partly in response to the economy and partly in response to community request. It was originally all commercial. Now it is a mix of commercial and residential. I think it is a great project. It provides mid-sized commercial property that we have a shortage of in this community. It's not a competitor with downtown, which has really small commercial properties, and it's not competing with Target, which is really big. And it also, I believe the number is 172 housing units that it provides for the community. I am in awe of the developers of this project, that they have had the persistence and fortitude to continue to push for this project and adapt it to meet economic and community needs. Their request seems very reasonable to me. I'm not a developer, but I've spent enough time talking to people and thought about what would I do if I were trying to develop a project. It takes time, and extending this for 7 years to me is very reasonable for the reasons that Mr. Hughes offered, that it takes time to find who your clients are going to be that are going to occupy your property. It takes time for detailed architectural drawings. It takes time to line up your contractors to do the work and the cleanup that this is part of, which incidentally, my understanding is the developer is willing to absorb the cost of the cleanup entirely on their own with no cost to the city. This is infill. It's a really good project. It will take time to build. I don't know what the detailed plan is, whether they're going to do housing first or commercial. It sounds like maybe they're going to focus on the commercial if they're looking for tenants, but I've always thought this was a great opportunity for Grass Valley, and I'm just glad that after 4.5 years of lawsuit, they are still interested in building here in Grass Valley. I'll just repeat a mantra that I use a lot in speaking about what goes on in our city. A city that people are willing to invest in is a city with a future, and this would add significantly to our community, both in the way of housing and needed commercial space. So I think the 7 years is reasonable, and I encourage you to approve the request. Thank you.
Are there any other comments? Are there any online comments?
The owners would love nothing more than for it to go faster, but just the reality of negotiating with major tenants, finalizing those leases.
Time, and I'd like
Major tenants, finalizing those leases can take a year.
And I'd like to say that the problem that we're having is the fires and trash and ongoing deaths and crime and violence that's taking place on the property that I hear on the police scanner all the time, including police and ambulance responses. Yes, it has been cleaned up recently, but it will go back, and there will be people out there this summer, and it will take police response to deal with it. So I wish the property owner to deal with it properly and not let it just be left in the hands of the surrounding community that it impacts so heavily, including across the street off their property, because we're one big community. Thank you.
And that is the end of the public comments.
There was a suggestion that the phased plan might not contain enough specifics, but is city staff satisfied with the milestones contained within the phased plan?
This, city doesn't have a specific milestone requirement. It's, based on market conditions a lot of the times. But certainly if the commission feels that they want to see different or more progress, they can ask for, some adjustments to that phasing plan.
It's a question I asked just because I don't know, but I don't have a concern if city staff doesn't. And I do, the mention about this being an ideal project in terms of infill, I think is worth considering as well, because it's ideally placed. We're not expanding into areas outside the city. It's an underutilized area that's close to a lot of residents. So I do like it from that perspective. I was not part of the original committee that approved it. So I was curious about the comment about low-income housing being part of the original application.
That I actually don't know, because I, as you know, was also not here for the initial application approval. Warren actually might be able to respond to some of that.
Yes, I can. Thank you. Thank you, Amy. I don't believe that, I think it was discussed at a number of levels, but based on our assessment of the market, and there are, the community is underserved by market rate housing. There are at least 3,000 to 3,500 existing affordable housing units in Nevada County. And the concern that we heard from the community was to support nurses and doctors and professionals and young people that were in, you know, college educated and want to stay in the community. There was nowhere there where for them to live, short of buying a house. And we're filling a gap with these 172 units. It's a big gap there. So I don't recall us ever proposing affordable housing. It was a discussion point, but nothing that we ever had in a plan that we presented.
And I'll just add that all 172 units are apartment units, and they're, you know, renter apartment units. So that does fill a need that we don't have a lot of here.
Yeah, and kind of ideally placed for those units as well, I think. Any other questions?
I just have one question, I think, on as far as our, let me see, development codes, not really changing. When we come up with like a general plan, or we review a general plan for the city, will that be, if there are any development codes that change, will that basically, will that change what's been planned? Or is that on when it's built? Or is that on what's
No,
approved?
if there's a standing entitlement, you know,
Okay.
the developer needs some assurance that
Yeah.
that they understand what the rules are. And so if there's a change, and we can certainly implement a change, and if the project never actually goes through, then, you know, any subsequent development proposals would have to abide by any new changes that might take place. But no, generally the way it works is that they would be locked with our current standards.
Okay. All right, that was my question, just in case that does come up in the next 7 years.
You know, and to reiterate, we really hope it goes faster. We just don't want to lose our entitlement after all these years. That's all. If we could build it next year, we would do it. But anchor tenant leases take a long time. Financing takes a long time. It's a $70 million build out. We wish we could build in 2 or 3 years, but just not realistic. So appreciate your consideration.
I have a question, one other question for staff. Is there going to be any other part during this development or phase where there's going to be more community input for anything? Are there aspects of this development that are still up for review?
The discretionary entitlements are pretty much
They're locked in.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Unless the applicant wants to change something substantial, that would have to come back to the planning commission, or, you know, a change of anything in the conditional or the conditions of approval, like we are here tonight. Would have to go through that.
And I mean, obviously, here Mr. Hughes said they want to get it done in 7 years. When is there a sunset on this?
That would be the
That's the
sunset.
7
So
years.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right. That's all for me.
Yeah, I think that based on the potential of benefit to the community, you know, I'm inclined to agree to this longer term than I think we would consider for a smaller project. I'd suggest that we put forward. Can we have the motion?
Yeah, so the recommendation is that the planning commission recommend that the city council approve application 25 PLN-0035, which includes the request to amend the approved Dorsey Marketplace project to add a project condition of approval to allow development phasing, and include the following actions: adopt the addendum to the Dorsey Marketplace Project EIR and subsequent EIR, which demonstrates that none of the conditions described in CEQA section 15162 requiring a subsequent or supplement EIR are present, and approve the modification to the approved Dorsey Marketplace Project 15 PLN-00007 to add a condition of approval to allow the development to occur in phases over a 7-year period.
I make a motion to recommend as stated by staff.
I second.
Commissioner Spites,
Yes.
Vice Chair McDonald,
Yes.
Galetti.
Yes.
3 yeses, motion carries.
All right. Let's see. Is there any other business before us tonight?
Not from staff. No.
All right. Any mention of future meetings, hearings, or study sessions we should be advised of?
I don't have any, no.
Are there any brief reports by commissioners?
I have none at this time. I'm sorry.
That's fine. Somebody's got to prepare a brief report at some point. All right.
Next time.
Before adjourning, thank you to the public for coming in. You make these meetings worth having, and it's great to have the context that's provided, and it really helps us in making these decisions, which sometimes aren't easy and sometimes are very easy, and you make that possible. So thank you.